large language models that won't allow you to do something that's that simple, that silly. I mean, you know, and then the market is really going to be made for us to actually GPT or
I know. I kind of like centralization.
why?
What's so bad about that?
Why do you like centralization? What makes it good?
It's good for scale economies. You know,
Fair, yeah, absolutely. But
maybe we can have a compromise. You know, have a theory of oligarchical collectivism, perhaps.
I don't think that would work out in people's best interest. I just don't. You know, when power becomes too centralized, people get drunk off of the power, and you start getting Googles. I mean, you can't search for anything on Google and find it. I mean, unless it's like a
Yeah,
very
but
base request,
if power does anything, it consolidates, right?
right?
Power naturally consolidates itself. That's not unique to us. That's the course of human history as being the only true psychology, right? There's never not been a time where his power hasn't consolidated, usually through force.
Right. Yeah. But is that, in places where power hasn't consolidated, we've had amazing things that were built. And then once it consolidates, then it becomes stagnant.
Like, can you give me an example?
Google's a great example. If we wanted to go back in the history, we could talk about railroads in the United States. When we manifest destiny to cross the continent, that was a structure that was originally decentralized and became very creative and created new models, created new systems, and after a period of time, it then centralized, and there was no more innovation into it. And it centralized around the time that,
Yeah.
and yeah, oh yeah, there's no railroads in the United
But,
States anymore. It's all
I'm just
centralized.
saying,
It
like,
killed itself.
all innovation passes through genesis, customization, product, and then utility, right? So isn't centralization just a natural thing that happens to innovation over time at scale? Isn't that just a natural thing?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not. I'm not making an argument that it's necessarily a bad thing. Like things should never be centralized. What I'm pointing out is that once they do become centralized, they become stagnant, and they don't develop further past their centralization.
But I guess, like, the market has this model of having pioneers, settlers, and town planners create a mosaic in the marketplace, right? So these tensions are historically productive, though bloody, right?
Right.
So, it's kind of fan fiction to imagine that we could have gotten the internet without DARPA. It
Well,
seems pretty centralized.
well, I don't know. I think the internet would have been inevitable. I mean, it was being worked on before DARPA. There were people in their garage and stuff that were working on the internet, and not with anything that's being used. But there was stuff going on that was being made that's no longer used and is completely lost to the histories now that nobody will
But
ever
like,
see.
the good thing about centralization then was, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn got everyone to get on board with the Nicene Creed of TCP/IP, right?
Yeah.
So you know,
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like in the instance you're talking about for, the internet at large, that wasn't bad. I mean, that the internet's really the most centralized thing. The internet itself, you take all the URLs out of it, and it's the most centralized thing you can possibly imagine. It's not really controlled by anybody outside of the network companies, but they're extremely centralized. You know. They all basically work for the same corporations. I mean, whatever network provider you have is probably owned by a larger finance company. It's extremely centralized, whether you see it or not, it is. Same thing with
Well, I guess,
Google.
as long as everyone is on their knees like I am, I don't feel like I'm bowing.
Wow.
Like, that's Cameron, that's not me.
So you're okay with things being centralized for the most part?
Not so much okay. I look at centralization being a natural occurrence in the evolution of markets, trends, and technology.
But is it beneficial to people? Is it beneficial to humanity as a whole?
Compared to what?
Compared to, if we were to compare economics, let's say capitalism and free enterprise. Capitalism being, basically what we live under right now, where, you have the right to go and build a company as big as you want, wherever you want, own as much as you want, and that's all great. That's all great for a lot of good reasons. But free enterprise being much less centralization, where you have small business owners. So if we were to do an example of like the grocery market industry, you probably have a Winco in your city, or you have, a Walmart in your city. So if you have these centralized supermarkets, a free enterprise version of that would be a local farmers market.
But wouldn't...
And you get better quality stuff from the local farmers market too. A centralized economy. If I go down to Walmart and I want to buy some meat, I want to go and buy a steak tonight and have a steak, I'm going to get some freezer burned shit from Walmart that probably came from another country 8 months ago. And if I go down to the farmer's market, that cow was butchered today.
Yeah, I guess I see that as civilizations or technologies evolve, at scale, at centralization or like an oligarchy is required. So if you look at oil, there's an oligarchy of players between Saudi Aramco, British Telecom, Reliance, and maybe a handful of others. And that occurs because of the economies of scale that you need to act with in order to turn a profit for oil or diamonds or silicon manufacturing.
What are you talking about? What that is okay, hold on. I'm reactive. I'm gonna chill the fuck out. When you say that is required to make a profit on these things, are you suggesting that without the centralization, it would be impossible for them to make a profit? Or that it would even be challenging?
Yeah, I think operations at scale require an oligarchy of nodes like proof of stake to stay consistent and turn a profit. Yes.
But then your oligarchy is the ones that are making the profit, and that's a very small handful of people. If we're looking for something that's a little bit more post scarcity, I would think that you would want that profit to be less centralized. That's my thinking. I think that you want profit to be less centralized, and the way to get there is to have a decentralized system in general. Who's making the profit? Like, let's talk about oil. If you have your oligarchy, your oil oligarchy, that's making profits.
I like that. Oligarchy. Good one.
Yeah, and they're making their profits, right?
Good.
But you only have 3 guys in that oligarchy that's making those profits. Then, where's that money going? Where's the money for the people that are drilling the oil, the people that are on the ground drilling the oil? Okay, well, they get paid by the oligarchy. Okay, so the oligarchy decides how much their time is worth, and then they pay them that amount. Whereas, if you decentralize that system and you had, the drillers